Over to you, Paul, as all of us know that the response can not only be from law enforcement. That's a approach that's on all of us. It's a society approach. So it's also interesting to see that many case successes rely on research findings of private firms, of course, think tanks, organizations such as the UNO we have seen, but also from investigative journalism. And one example of this is the OCCRP, the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, which has done some powerful investigative work on scams and money laundering networks that is now supporting law enforcement efforts. And I'm very happy to have you with us, Paul, as the scam empire, which you will walk through the next minutes, is also something we have been facilitating from Europol, and a number of member states are now benefiting from the very interesting insights done from your side. So over to you.
Thank you, Alex. OCCRP, the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, is really all about impact. We are investigative reporters. I'm the co-founder of the organization, which I started with my colleague Drew Sullivan about 18 years ago. And what we're doing is we're following the money across borders, across servers, across wherever the criminals may go. Now, just a few quick things about OCCRP. We've contributed to quite a bit of money being recovered from various criminal parties, transnational organized crime, corrupt corporations, and so on. So quite a bit of impact. As I said, OCCRP is all about impact. We do our journalism with the view that this will inform law enforcement, this will inform civil society, this will inform the private sector to actually take this type of action that leads to the criminals not being able to do business as usual. Just a little bit about our geographic distribution. We're a global organization. We're on 6 continents right now, hundreds of investigative reporters. We also developed software for the past more than 15 years to go through large leaks, many hundreds of terabytes of data that we amassed over time in order to understand how criminals work and how they develop their networks. We actually developed a new taxonomy in order to understand crime through data. We develop new ways of understanding this intersection between kleptocracy and criminality. Now, I will just dive into a case that we investigated for about a year, and a case that we published in the spring of this year with the view that there will be follow-ups quite soon. I should let you know. This is an investigation into a scam center. And this is one of our, we publish about 100+ investigations a year, but I want to run you through one of these. And as you can see here, this project is called Scam Empire. This was focused on a fraud center, a physical fraud center that had its headquarters in Tbilisi, Georgia, but had branches in other parts of the world. Now, what was interesting about this case, and let me go to this slide here, is that we got, as we usually do as investigative reporters, a rather big leak of information. And what's interesting about these leaks is that we use the leaks in coordination with many other data sets. So with our systems, with our software systems, we go and scrape the web, at all times, and we map the information, across various types of databases. But when you get a leak like this, of this magnitude, almost 2 terabytes of information that contains from text, from WhatsApp chats to, telegrams and videos and all sorts of other information, including, in this case, this was data from the servers of the scam center, where you actually had the communication, the internal communication between the people working inside the fraud center. So you can imagine how much fun it is to go through those and to see how those people train themselves into scamming people, because that's where you understand how these people operate. That's where you understand the drive, that helps them go against, all very old people, and rob them of their life savings. So in this case, we've seen, for instance, that the employees of this scam center needed to undergo quite a bit of training, where the scammers themselves, the organizers, were the upper level, were running them through tonality tests, speed, fluency tests. So humans would undergo these tests, in order to be able to scam better. They had to decide on a stage name for themselves, a stage name, that would be then used online in the communication with their victims. They had to practice objections and rebuttals. They actually, there was a test that was called the objection game, where they had to think on their feet while a trainer lobbed objections at them. So they had to train themselves to become quite fast. But imagine the potential of this, in the future. I mean, what these people were doing there is creating the basis for training an AI model to do this in the future. This was, these were humans working physically in this space in Tbilisi, Georgia, and some of them in other countries. But this is a lot of potential, for what will come, for what will actually be. Now, obviously, there are lots of red flags when it came to this operation, and I won't read from the screen. You can, and you're familiar with most of these anyway. But it's the usual, promises, and then promises not fulfilled, and the money stolen, and usually very vulnerable people falling prey to this. What was important for us to understand during this investigation, it's not really just this particular case. It was the infrastructure that allowed these people to operate. So what we did was not just to look at the communication, but to look behind this, behind this scam center and behind all the scam centers, if you will. And we kind of split the investigation into four technical parts. We looked at the tools used to catch the victims, to lure the victims. And there we looked at marketing companies, tech platforms, and websites. We looked at the tools to manage the scam, which are usually software pieces, connectivity pieces. You need, to have speed. You need to rely on various ISPs. You needed VPNs. And then the third part to our investigation was, how did they get the money? And that's where, we looked at the VASPs, we looked at banks, we looked at various types of payment processors. And this is where we noticed that lots of these criminals are always very early tech adopters, as we all know. But in this particular case, through their communications, their internal communication, we noticed how they try to innovate at all times, and how people were incentivized to innovate, to bring new tools, to actually create new ways to kind of scale up the fraud at all times. So obviously, we had lots of red flags and lots of the usual suspicious kind of behavior when it came to this. And as usual, unfortunately, this scam was very successful across borders, because what we're discussing here is this international collaboration that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But in my view, what needs to be done a bit better is to attack the infrastructure of these criminal empires, of this, the infrastructure that sits behind the fraud, because we can investigate fraud until we bleed dry, and we won't end it. It's like looking at all those SARs in banks, right? Zillions of SARs every day, while, lots of those are organized from the same place and with the same infrastructure. So that's where I believe, as a community, we need to come together to be a little bit a bit more efficient. And I'll just end by presenting you with our way of communicating, if you want, with law enforcement, with the private sector. And this is our Global Anti-Corruption Consortium, which is a way for us to expand investigative reporting, because I always believe in the tension. There's a very healthy tension between journalism and law enforcement. But at the same time, we need to help each other in places where we can. And this is why we set up this structure called the GACC, where we work across Transparency International that takes our findings, our data, and then turns that into complaints, into actionable intelligence, if you want. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, Paul, and it shows the importance of the work done by the investigative journalism and how it can bring added value to community response.